But
love,
we got to talk about this, even if it's for a short while. We
love.
got to talk about this.
Hell
Yanni,
yeah.
what's your
Hell yeah.
what's your um what's your topic?
I'll be quick. So heterosexual men, unless drunk to the point of slurred speech, rarely express their love for one another, for their pals, rather. In a 2019 survey of 1,005 Americans by GQ magazine, 97% acknowledge that expectations for male behavior has changed and in the past decade, but fewer than half of those males were not comfortable with it. Older men cling on to the ideals of manhood that they learned as the kids in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And in a world where sensitivity is high and social norms are changing, I wanted to get the panel's perspective or opinion on this subject. Heterosexual men telling each other, I love you. Should there be a boundary? Should it be accepted? What do you think?
I want to start with Lizzie because she's the other female on the panel, and then we'll get to the two males.
I mean, should there be a boundary? No, like there's no boundary, with, women saying I love you towards one another. I think this is all a part of, the 20th, latter 20th, 21st century, um, perception of what masculinity and machismo should be. Which I don't agree with. But one of the things that, which says that, men cannot be affectionate. Men cannot show affection towards other men. If they do, they're gay, they're the F word, they're all of these other things. They're not allowed to come to terms with or express their um, ability to love, whether it be a male or
Or female.
another male or female. One area in which, and I challenge you guys to pay attention to this. One area where this doesn't necessarily, in my experience as a sports journalist, one area where this doesn't seem to be a problem is with a lot of male athletes.
Hmm.
They're always telling one another that they love each other, especially if a guy made a good play, if a guy made a game winning shot, game winning catch, game winning kick. One of the first things you'll hear is, I love you, man. I love you, bruh. It's quite common when you get
Especially when you're really
outside.
into it.
Yeah, it's when you get outside of
Yeah.
team camaraderie and into the real world where we start to apply all of these other characteristics, homosexual characteristics, if you will, to how men are supposed to act. And that's one of the problems I think that, a lot of men have, not just in their relationships with other men, but in their relationships, their heterosexual relationships with females. They're not allowed to express themselves. We always assume that, okay, well, he looks like he gay. He acting gay. And it's like, no, he's acting like he loves his brother. And there's nothing, to me, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Robbie?
Yeah, so why? I don't know why. I don't really get it, Johnny, because I'm very comfortable with myself. And for me to tell my male friends that I love them is not unheard of. But I think some guys struggle with it because love puts you in a vulnerable position because it should be. You're being honest, you're putting yourself out there, you're leaving yourself open. I think another issue is that people associate intimacy with love. So that goes back to what Liz was saying, just having these homosexual tendencies by telling someone that you love them. No, love is love. And we'd be in a much better place if people practice that love rather than the toxic masculinity, the machismo. Just be open, be honest, be vulnerable, because there are select people in my life that if I lost, I would be crushed. So when I interact with them, I try to tell them that I love them. One of my dearest friends, one of my oldest friends, um, is funny because he does struggle with it. And when I tell him that I love him, it's met with the classic stoic man. I just get stonewalled. I never hear it back. Meanwhile, one of my newer friends of the last decade that through sport, we're very comfortable telling one another that, I can tell Paul that I love him. He'll tell me that he loves me. I can tell Neo that I love him. And we're cool with it because if anything, I think it makes me more of a man because I'm honest with myself and the world around me. And by spreading love, you spread happiness. Who doesn't enjoy hearing, hey, I love you, man? Hey, you know what? I love you too. That's awesome. Thanks. You're making the world better one little exchange at a time.
So look,
It's true.
I'm I don't use the words "I love you" all willy nilly anyway. Like I just don't
Neither do
do
I.
that.
Yeah.
So there, I don't know if there's any expectation that men should suddenly start saying "I love you" to everybody, because I don't. I have a select group of male friends that I have. I've been friends with a very long time. Julius, Manfred, Damien, you know them all, Lizzie. Um, I see Manfred's online actually. Love you, Manfred.
I
Love you,
I
buddy.
just Radford.
That's awesome.
But even when we were growing up, there was always this sense of not being able to say "I love you" to one another, right? Even growing up. But as I've grown up and matured over the years, and I know what I am. I know who I am. I'm not still trying to figure that out to this day. I'm always learning myself in a different way. I'm always changing, obviously. But I know who I am. I know what I am. I'm a straight heterosexual male, and for me to say "I love you" doesn't change that. If for me to say it to a man
Yeah.
doesn't suddenly change the fact that I am a heterosexual male. So I can say those things to another guy if I feel it. I mean, I gotta feel it, because I don't say it to women unless I feel it. I don't say it to
Yeah.
family. Family, I don't even say "I love you" to family unless I feel it. So
Yeah.
it's not something I throw around, but at the same time, it's definitely something that is can be said. I have no problem saying it. I used to. There was a time when I did.
um, Boundaries. I was gonna ask you, like when I was saying that earlier, Liz, I was thinking about past "I love you." What about a kiss or a hug, or like?
And we might be going a little too far.
Okay,
But
so there are
everyone's got a
boundaries.
line. One of my
But
favorite
again,
Rolling Stones covers was after the Red Hot Chili Peppers had recorded Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and it's Anthony and Dave Narone that are kissing. And when they were interviewed about it, they was just like, you know what? Like it happened at the end of the recording. Like we'd been recording and writing for months. We were exhausted, and at that moment, it was the final check that was done. Like it was the final edit. The album was done, and they felt such relief and happiness. It was just a natural expression of how they felt at that time. And a band is like a team. They're very close knit. These are your brothers. These are guys that you would bleed for.
also
Yeah.
again, I liken it to sports. Like if you pay attention to athletes for decades over the years, you look at how they interact with one another. Male athletes are more likely to hug one another, especially after a good play, especially after a good win, than
Yeah.
non-male athletes. Look at how they congratulate one another for a good play. They slap each other on the butt.
Now
True.
I've always hugged guys too. I've never been afraid to hug. I've always been a
Within
hugger.
Yeah.
within like the sports circle, that level of affection, some people on the
I don't slap
outside see,
guys on the butt
but I was just gonna say, people, some people on the outside see it as homoerotic. When you're in the sports, when you're on the sports team, that's a part of the ritual.
Yeah.
You hug, you say "I love you, man," you slap someone for
I
a
don't
good
slap
play
people on the butt.
on the
I
butt.
don't do that.
You ain't playing a professional sport though, so it's
I'm
different.
professional. I'm professional.
But
My
Do you feel
my
like
perception is that I'm professional.
so do you feel like there has to be a form of like a
y'all,
brotherhood almost for this?
honey, do y'all see my face? Like what? You are not a professional athlete. Stop it. Again, go ahead, Gianni.
I get paid, sort of.
Not for your sport, not for your sports acumen. No, you don't. No, you don't.
But no, Gianni, as far as the kissing thing, I don't kiss women like that. I don't just randomly kiss women. I save my kisses for my wife.
But
I
you
mean, I
know
might
what?
kiss my and some family.
Go back in the
Yeah.
day, 80s NBA. Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas. Magic Johnson, fame point guard for the LA Lakers. Isaiah Thomas, Hall of Fame point guard for the Detroit Pistons. They were best friends back in the days. And each time the Lakers and the Pistons would play back in the day, before the game, they would meet at center court and they would kiss each other on the cheek. Not on the mouth,
Yeah.
but they would kiss each other on the cheek. Like, in sports, it's different. Like, there's this brotherhood camaraderie that's different. But then the people on the outside looking in often want to assign homophobic behavior to that, which isn't, more often than not, isn't the case. And that's not saying there's anything wrong with being a homosexual, but if you aren't homosexual, you aren't homosexual. Not every act of love connotes
Mhm.
homosexuality.
All right. So
Exactly.
let's
That's
let's
true.
get to these comments
That's
so
true.
we can move on because this is I gotta do better on time. I'm sorry, guys. Mike Winter says toxic masculinity causes so many problems. This is on YouTube. Totally agree with that.
Mhm, mhm,
Jeanette Brown, love equals vulnerability.
mhm.
My dad says those are your brothers, Neo, and I said yes, they
Well,
are.
because
He said, Mike Winter also says, seriously, most of my straight friends are huggers and kissers. I don't have many toxic masculine people in my life. And Manford, he says, I love you too, bro. Love you.
Aw.
Love you, Manford. Um, yeah, we've been friends since, I don't know, it's been we're going on 30 years now.
Awesome.
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. You
so
better I love you.
that's definitely love. That's definitely some love. All right, we
The love.
got to move on. We got to move on.
Truth, lies,
We're gonna have another very short game, but we got to get it in.